In this demo, I'm going to use TreeVersity to compare the US federal budget between 2013 and 2012. Here, the budget is organized by the discretionary part, the mandatory part, and the net interest part, according to the BEA categories. This determines what parts actually the government can modify. There are those that are under the discretionary branch, and which ones they cannot modify. There are the ones in the mandatory. We can see that the discretionary has a significant decrease, a significant cut scheduled for 2013 of about $47 billion, while the mandatory is scheduled to be increasing $13 billion. However, if we look at the original values, we can see that the mandatory part is three times bigger than the discretionary one. Now, if we look at the next level of the budget that includes all the agencies, then we can identify some interesting patterns. First, we see that in the discretionary part, this one on the left, about a third of the agencies are decreasing, about 20 or 25% are staying the same, the ones in gray, and about another third are increasing. Well, in the mandatory part, more than half of the agencies are actually increasing, and the tendency is for increase in there. Now, if we look at the details of those agencies, we can see some interesting outliers, like the Department of Health, that has a significant increase in the mandatory branch, or the Department of Transportation. We can also sort the different amounts of change in the tabular representation and navigate the views by clicking on each one of those elements. Now, going back to the overview, we can also look at the distribution of the change with the diff scatter plot and select to see only the nodes that are changing the most. So if I compact the view and then I select the ones that are actually decreasing, and these two in here that are increasing, we get to see that the biggest players, and let me include the labels here, the biggest players, or the elements changing the most, are all in the mandatory side, and the Department of Education, Treasury, Labor, the Social Security Administration, Department of Health, and Department of Transportation. In the same way, let me go back to show this whole picture. We can also select to see only the created or removed nodes in the overall budget. And then we get to see that even in the mandatory part, there are some elements that are going to be created and some that are going to be removed. Finally, going back to the overview, we can also explore one of these elements inside it. So I can select the mandatory part and then navigate into it to see what's changing inside that in more detail. I get the full picture first. Let me remove these labels and select only the first levels of change, and actually select up to the boroughs. So now in this picture, we get to see that there are some agencies that are in this first level that have only one borough inside them, like all of these, that actually are not changing. And there are also some agencies that have a big number of bureaus like these ones. Usually that's true for departments like agriculture or education, or what we consider the biggest departments. Now, if we filter again by the maximum amount of change, I get to see which are the elements that are changing the most. And enabling the labels for this, we can see now that inside the Department of Health and Human Services, that is the biggest increase. Almost all of that increase comes from the centers of Medicare and Medicaid services, which seems to be one of the reasons why the mandatory branch is increasing. Also, we can see the Federal Highway Administration, that is a significant increase in more than 100% increase. And that concludes our demo.